Hello and welcome to my channel. My 3-year, 93,000 mile video really took off, but I haven't told you everything. I felt that it was getting a little long, so I decided to save the undercarriage part for a separate video. Stick around. Welcome back. First and foremost, I have to say thank you. Thank you for all the subscriptions and views. That 3-year, 93,000 mile video really took off. I had no expectation of this happening. I must have really struck something that's just not out there. I have some mod videos, and that's what's out there a lot. I like to watch GTI mod videos. The mods that I've chosen for my car, they're fairly commonplace, and so they're not really going to get as much attention. The stereo stuff, the ham radio especially, I mean, most GTI owners aren't into it. The trailer towing, no, they're not getting a lot of traction. And I don't have the other cool mods like suspension and loud exhaust, and I don't race. I stopped racing back in 2010. I'm just kind of over it. I just drive the car. But what's not there, and I didn't even realize it, I've always been one that's proud of the miles that I put on a car and how much I use it. And that's what's not out there, is the longevity reports out of these cars, especially once they're up over 100,000 miles, 150,000 miles. I hope to be at 150 maybe at the 5-year point. We'll see. By then, maybe I'll actually be able to tell you some stuff that's broken. But and speaking of that, before I go on to the underbody part of this video, part 2, if you will, of my 3-year, 93,000 mile video, I want to address some of the comments that were left on my previous video. And I'm just going to go right down the list. I have a list of a lot of things that were wrong with the car. People who viewed them as failures, and they're really not. Out of all of them, I got maybe 4 that I can blame on Volkswagen. Let me just go down the list real quick. I promise I'll be quick. The first 3, the shipping pucks, the glass, and the door lights. Those are manufactured defects that were fixed at the dealer within days of me buying the car. I just really can't even count those. I pointed them out just as a matter of fact that here was a problem with the car, and they got fixed like that. The remote and the battery, although I didn't speak of it, I did leave a note up here, I forget which side, I guess maybe that side. Yes, I've replaced the remote control and the battery twice. I think I said in the video 3 times, but it's only been twice, so about once a year. Once a year is not bad out of a remote for a car that is keyless. The remote and the car talk all the time, and so you can't expect these batteries to last forever. I have most recently, though, replaced my battery with a 2032. Factory calls for it the 25, and then I replaced it with a 32, which is slightly more capacity. So we'll see if I get more than a year out of this new one. Just give me time to report that. And then the clutch. Oh gosh, people are just losing their minds over me replacing my clutch at only 30,000 miles. I abuse my clutch. 80 extra horsepower, 100 extra pound-feet of torque, and towing. It doesn't get much worse than that. And my clutch didn't fail, by the way. It just slipped one morning. And so once it slipped, I decided I've got the money. I'm going to go ahead and just throw in a clutch now and be done with it. I probably could have milked that for another 20,000 miles or a year. I don't know. So the clutch did not fail. It just slipped. And that happens when you add performance to a car. So you guys who say, my clutch lasted the life of the car, I'll bet you weren't pushing substantially more power than the car came with. It happens. Those of us who tune cars, we get it. Clutches don't last forever, so get over it. The VAQ leak, it wasn't a leak. We thought it was, but it wasn't. So again, not a defect. The coolant, I said 3/4 of an inch, but some of you don't understand that 3/4 of an inch, that amounts to maybe 4 to 6 ounces of coolant that I'm adding every 6 months to a year. Again, I don't document it. We're not talking about a gigantic leak here, okay? So the battery, I thought I'd said it in the video, so when I replied to some of you, I mentioned why the battery didn't last, but I didn't. So here's why I don't blame my battery. I don't blame Volkswagen for my battery shortcoming. I abuse my battery check out this video, check out this photo. I have stuff in the car. Okay, so this battery gets put through a lot more than a standard VW battery. The creaky door check, yep, that's a manufacturer's problem. Maybe at the factory they could have put some Loctite on that, or maybe torqued it properly. I don't know what the answer is to that, but that's a minor problem. It's not a big deal. The bolster, that's not VW's problem. I'm sure that happens to a lot of cars, especially 4 doors with short doors. Somebody mentioned the Ford Fiesta. Holy cow, I had a Ford Fiesta rental, and I banged my hip on that door every time I got in and out of it. So I'm sure I would have worn that one out too. It's just a thing. Same with the door seal. I banged that B-pillar every time I got in and out of a car on a Ford Fiesta. If I had a big, long car like a Camry or a Passat, probably would never even touch it. But this is a small car. Small cars, tall people, there are issues sometimes. The leather on the parking boot. I could say that's a bad design because it was really just kind of clamped into place by the plastic around the deal there. And somebody posted that they had have a 2017 that does not have leather. So Volkswagen must have figured out pretty quick that that was not a great idea. I don't know. Put in the comments if you've got leather wrapped on your parking brake. This isn't a big deal, guys. The blower motor, yeah, it'd have been nice if that lasted a little bit longer. Sure, people are quick to say the car is only 3 years old. It's 93,000 miles, right? I'm driving twice the average. Is 93,000 miles acceptable out of a blower? Maybe, maybe not. But I'll tell you a couple things. First, the blower is not that expensive. Second, it's a cinch to replace. And third, it didn't leave me stranded. It just quit blowing, so no big deal. The trunk carpet. There was a lot of confusion on the trunk carpet, and I will admit that kind of what misleading was my fault. I don't have crappy trunk carpet in the trunk. I have a canvas liner that goes in there. It's made for people who have dogs. I don't have dogs, but it's designed for outdoors types who have dogs and maybe throw a lot of harsh cargo in the back. And this canvas protects the factory carpet from damage. I figure if it can hold up to big giant dogs and their claws digging into it, it can hold up to me tossing bicycles and metal and things like that in the trunk. So if you thought that was from the Volkswagen dealer and it was all loose and everything like that, I could see why people think that's a problem, but it's really not. I'll throw a link. I need to make a video on that stuff, but I'll put a link in the description so you can go look at pictures and a write-up of what it is. But it's really a great aftermarket product. Now the glue that holds the carpet to the fold-down armrest or the pass-through, yes, that was a poor choice from Volkswagen, but again, that's not a big deal. The fit and finish, I mean, inside the car, you can't even tell it's there. And then the bent wheels, I didn't hear a lot of grief about that either. I think it's just recognized that if you've got 18, 19-inch wheels and you're driving around potholes, you might bend one. What's the rule on wheels? Strong, light, and inexpensive. You can only have 2 of those things, right? So these wheels have a great middle ground between all of those 3 things, and I guess if you hit a crater, you're going to bend a wheel. And mine didn't even bend that bad. They bent right back. And then the last thing was the oil pan. Gosh, people are losing their minds over the oil pan. It's aftermarket, self-inflicted. I put it on. Maybe I didn't do it right. Maybe I did. I don't know, but not Volkswagen's fault. So out of all these things that I just named off, only 4 of them could I blame on Volkswagen, and none of them left me stranded or affected the way the car drives. So there you have that. All right, let me talk about the underside of the car. I shot video of the underside of the car, and I was going to include it in that previous video. But once I discovered that oil leak and what a mess it made, I felt compelled to talk about that because it's an aftermarket oil pan. And, once I started building the video and it got up to 21 minutes, I think is where it was, I was just like, no, that's enough. I'm going to save this other stuff for later. So let me tell you about the underside of the car. I went ahead and continued shooting. And as you can see, there's no rust. We do get snow here, not an awful lot. They put brine on the roads, and they do sand and salt if it's really bad. But I will say compared to New England in the north, it's not that bad at all. We certainly don't have lots of salt. I don't even know where the nearest salt silo thing is that you guys have up there. I've seen them in New Jersey on the turnpike. We certainly don't put the blue junk on the road that they have up there. I've seen it in New England and, you know, say the Great Lakes area. You guys know what I'm talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just some blue crap they spray on the roads, and apparently it very good at melting snow and apparently really good at rotten cars. We don't have that here. So I'm not in a salt-free environment, but I'm also not in the deep south with, you know, no, or Arizona, right, with no rust. So the exhaust pipe from the resonator back is still factory, and it looks good. You know, there's a little bitty tiny bit of surface rust on there, but and then you look around at the other parts of the underbody and there's just no rust. I mean, you might see a bolt maybe that has some rust on it, but I don't have any recollection of there being any rust under there. And then I went ahead and checked out the suspension. I am still on the factory suspension on this car. So 93,000 miles, stock suspension, and the ride is still firm and controlled. It doesn't wallow or anything like that. And I'm sure some of you are asking yourselves, you're going to pull, you're typing right now, oh my God, why are you still on factory suspension? And I don't know. In my experience, once you start changing things out on the car, like an oil pan, that's when you might have your first problems with it being, like, say, like a creaky suspension or the alignment is off. I just feel like I'm in nirvana with the way this car rides. It's a fantastic blend between comfort and a firm, controlled. It's not harsh at all. So it's very firm and planted, and sure, it could be stiffer and even more planted, but I have that compromise there, and I like that. And the alignment is perfect. Perfect. I do not want to risk messing up this perfect alignment. Even with me running through potholes, the alignment is perfect. It doesn't pull. The steering wheel is straight. What else can I... Perfect. What else can I say? So, I really think that when I wear out these struts, I'm just going to replace them with, gasp, another set of factory struts. I don't even think I'm going to go with the Bilstein B8s or anything like that. Maybe some Touring Comfort from Coney, maybe, but probably just the factory struts. It's perfect. I know you young guys out there disagree with me, but yeah, the car drives great. I think the only rust under this car is on my trailer hitch, and even that's not that bad. It's inside the receiver where you slide the drawbar in and out. I mean, you just can't keep paint in there. And so every spring and every fall, I just hit that with some satin black paint, and I'm done. The only thing I didn't get a chance to do was pull off the wheels and videotape. Do we really have tape in the 21st century? Come on, there's no tape here. I didn't get a chance to record the brake pads for you. Somebody made a comment about my brake rotors looking like they're all worn out or wearing poorly or they're damaged. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure, there may be little teeny tiny grooves in them, but the pads are bedded into those grooves, and the brakes are great. They work fine. They don't squeal. They don't make any noise. The suspension doesn't make any noise. The car drives like it's brand new. I swear, like it's brand new. And the car still stops great. So this nonsense about me having rutted up rotors is just nonsense. I said that twice, didn't I? So, yeah, I don't know what else to say for you. But the pads, I do still have some life on them. I mean, obviously they're wearing down, but this is a highway car, so I'm getting plenty of life out of the brakes. I am going to take the car in soon for a brake flush. Sure, I could do it myself, but I just don't want to. Volkswagen calls to do that after the third year. So the first flush is at 3 years, and then every 2 years thereafter. So the car is due for its first brake flush, and it's overdue for spark plugs, but the car is driving fine on its old spark plugs. I think I've got like 60,000 miles on these plugs. And yes, I'm stage 2. Yes, I know I'm being naughty, not changing my plugs often enough, but the car still drives great, and I don't ever think about it. So sometimes I just forget. But yeah, I got to get it in there. I'm going to do all that stuff Tell me what you think of all of this stuff. I don't need to rehash all the comments that were put on the other one. And yes, you naysayers, Volkswagens are junk. Sure, I get it. But come on. The car's doing really well, and I'm very happy with it. So I'm going to just keep on driving. Somebody told me, oh, yeah, once you cross 100,000 miles, you got to sell it before it just falls apart. It's not my experience. My experience is that usually time does in a car quicker than mileage does. I'd like to think that it'll last for 10 years, but these complicated electronics and other plastic bits, that's what usually starts crapping out after 7 to 10 miles. They get brittle and they break. I don't know. If I got to drop $1,000 on it here and there to fix it, then I'll do that until I really don't want to anymore, and then I'll get something else. But cars, all of them, they're just getting more and more plastic than them. That's just a thing. I don't know. I can't justify buying a Lexus or an expensive Audi. I can't remember what else. BMW. I actually looked at BMWs. Can't justify it. It's just not in my budget. Not for a piece of transportation. This car here is a great mix between commuting and having some fun. Value, economy, efficiency, all of it. It's just a great blend. That's the only reason I'm here. My first GTI, and I don't know why I waited so long. I think I said that in the last video. Again, I'm babbling, so I'm just going to say thank you. Thank you again for subscribing. My goodness, I think my subscription base has more than doubled just since the last video went out. And that, too, was pretty humbling. I'm glad you're here watching my content, and I hope that I can continue to put out more stuff that you like. Leave some notes if you're interested in seeing something specific. I never thought I'd get to the point where I'd say I'm taking requests, but let me know if you want to see something, and I'll see what I can do to make it happen. So thank you again for being here, and I'll see you next time. Take care.